I think we are now we are.
Okay. Okay, cool. Should we
So,
start just with like introductions?
yeah, we should start with introductions.
Okay, great. Do you want to go first?
Hello, I'm Chris. You're on my channel. I created the Literary Lesbians, I guess. I ended up giving the Falling in Love montage for
Okay, cool. Sorry, you cut out for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is our first live show, so we have some growing pains, but I think we'll end up being okay. Okay, my name's Lara. My channel is Bookiosaurus. Yeah, I think we can, Literary Lesbians sort of came out of a like fun, spontaneous Twitter group, and then we just decided to read some books together that are like about like queer girls. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the Falling in Love montage because I really enjoyed it. I actually don't use star ratings just because it's too much pressure. So I kind of just I really enjoyed this though. So this has received like a very high mental rating in my mind. Okay. Cool.
I forgot to grab my copy.
Oh my gosh.
But it's
If you
fine.
want, you can. I don't mind.
So let's get right into it.
Okay.
Do you have any like general thoughts?
Well, I think personally for me reading this book, I was just thinking about how important like Love Simon and things like that were for a lot of people, me included, and just sort of having that like queer rom-com-y style thing like right in front of you. And the Falling in Love montage, it was like getting that, but with queer girls. And it was just so amazing to read about them having like this kind of epic, sweeping love story, even if it was only for one summer, which we will talk about later on.
Yes.
What about you?
So I thought it was a very cute book. I had a lot of fun reading it, but I don't actually have I don't have a lot of strong feelings about it, which is why I was hoping Teresa would be.
Oh yeah.
Here, the book.
I know. I wish Teresa could be here too. Unfortunately, we'll just have to do it like in their honor. Oh, okay. It looks like I'm alone. I'm just gonna. How about I just read the synopsis? Hopefully, everyone here has. Everyone who's gonna watch this has already read the book. But just in case you haven't and you're like just not afraid of spoilers, I am going to read the synopsis. So, Saoirse doesn't believe in love at first sight. She definitely doesn't believe in happy endings. If they were real, her mother would still be able to remember her name. She wouldn't be in a care home with early onset dementia, a condition Saoirse may one day develop herself. So Saoirse isn't looking for a relationship. She doesn't see the point. But Saoirse is about to break her own rules. For a girl with one blue freckle, an irresistible sense of mischief, and a passion for rom-coms. Unbothered by Saoirse's no relationships rule book, Ruby proposes a loophole. They don't need true love to have one summer of fun, complete with every cliche rom-com montage-worthy date they can dream up, and a binding agreement to end their romance come fall. It would be a great plan if they weren't forgetting one thing about the falling in love montage. When it's over, the characters have fallen in love for real. Okay, so I think that's like a great summary of the things that like also like meant most to me in the book. This kind of I love rom-coms. I just find them like so joyful, and I think it's so important to have that kind of joyful story in literature for queer girls. Hello, welcome back.
Hi, I'm back. I should have better Wi-Fi here, but I'm also in a stairwell now, so my lighting is bad.
No, it's totally fine. I was just reading the synopsis, just in case anyone who watches this doesn't know what the book's about and is watching it, even though we're going to talk about spoilers. So,
Yeah. Okay, so
okay,
I don't have a format for this planned out. I should have done that,
no,
but I
it's fine.
didn't. Do you just want to jump into the the questions and the spoilers, or
Yeah,
okay?
let's jump into the questions. I think
So
we'll see where that takes us. So,
yeah. Okay, so question number one. This book has a lot. This book uses the word lesbian quite frequently. Uh, how does that make you feel? Do you think it was very important or anything like that?
well, I think it's very important. I think there's still so much stigma around the word lesbian. It's still sort of like treated as like a dirty word or like a word only associated with like fetishization of lesbians in particular. So I think the fact that it actually uses that word in a way, and also like about characters that are engaging in sort of this like cute rom-com style adventure to show that like lesbians take many shapes and forms. I think that's really important, and I hope that hopefully we'll just see that continue to become more and more common in YA. I think, fingers crossed. What do you think?
I I also think that it's very important because there's a lot of people who the first time they hear that the word lesbian, it's negative. They hear someone using it negatively and it just makes you feel kind of gross about the word, and I'm really glad there's a book like this that's going to help combat that, and maybe
Right.
this will be someone else's first time seeing the word lesbian. It makes me happy.
Yeah, I think like if I had read this book and had this like positive association with the word when I was like a younger person, like in high school still, I don't think it would have taken me so long to come to terms with my own identity, right? Because I think, that kind of positive representation, it can actually like change people's lives. Um, but yeah, so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's super cool. Okay, what's next?
Okay. I realized I didn't actually include a question about the relationship, so
Okay.
I'm gonna quickly try and come up with something for that. So, what are your feelings about the relationship? Is there anything you would change about the relationship, or do you think it's pretty good as is?
Um, I think, I think that something that's so important about this is that it's like a story of first love. Because I know like Saoirse was in a relationship before this with like her childhood best friend Hannah, I think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that was kind of she talks about how that sort of like developed in a way that Hannah didn't reciprocate like her romantic feelings in the same way. So I think like this is the first time that both Saoirse and Ruby are finding someone who likes them romantically just the way they are. So I think that there's something like very powerful in that, especially since the book takes place in that like transitional period between high school and college. I think it's like important to show that you shouldn't settle for someone who feels obligated to be with you. You shouldn't like settle for a relationship that is anything less than someone seeing exactly who you are and loving you for that. So I thought that was quite beautiful. What do you think?
I do like how Hannah and Saoirse, sorry, I have a speech impediment, but
No, totally fine.
so I did like how Hannah and Saoirse's relationship was handled. I also enjoyed Ruby and Saoirse's relationship because the book didn't shy away from the more like negative sides of their relationship. It
Right.
just portrayed their relationship in a very real and open way, and I think especially for the age demographic that is incredibly helpful and useful and just a good thing to do in general
Right.
because I'm about a year older than the characters in the books, and I know just how many unrealistic expectations there are out there.
Right. Yeah. I think you make a great point about that. Also, I just want to talk about like kind of like a side tangent. But I really like sort of like the body positivity in the book. Sort of like whenever Saoirse is like describing Ruby, she's, you know, she talks about how she's like fat and beautiful and funny and like she is beautiful like because she's fat, not like despite she's fat. You know what I mean? So I think that was also like a really important part of the book because it's like if anyone
Mhm.
ever makes you feel like badly about yourself, they're not the person for you. Do you know what I mean? Like you are beautiful and you need to find someone who sees you as you really are. So I thought that was an also like another important aspect of their relationship that I just wanted to touch on. But,
Mm. Okay. And so this book had two side characters that are pretty big characters. Like they're not big characters in the story, but they do have a lot of personality behind them. So what were your thoughts on Barb, who is the woman that was at the dress shop, and Morris, who is the old man they met at the cooking lessons?
I think this book's side characters is one of its like strongest points. I think like giving them so much personality means that they like jump off the page and they don't get like relegated to being like super forgetful, which I think is often the case with like characters that are only in one or two scenes. So I thought that they were really well done. I really enjoyed like seeing Saoirse and Ruby interact with them. It was like these characters had like with these big personalities, they also had like lives outside of the like outside of the main characters. You know, you hear about like their relationships and like their own interests, and I think that's honestly what like gives this book such strength because it's showing them interacting with people that are actually like relevant to their like greater understanding of themselves and what is happening in their lives. So yeah, I thought that was great. What do you think?
All the side characters in this book, they all felt so real. Like they didn't feel like none of them felt like cardboard cutouts. They all felt like someone you could meet in real life, and I think it just added a added layer to the book. But specifically, Barb and Morris, they were just so much fun. They were just fun and interesting characters, and I think they were added specifically because this is supposed to be a rom-com, and
Right.
you know those characters like that are pretty common in rom-coms, I would say.
Right. But actually, I was
And
hoping we
then
could talk. Oh, sorry,
Teresa
sorry.
has a comment that I really like.
Ah, hi, Teresa. Sorry, I have no idea how to
Oh
reply to the
no, go
public
ahead.
chat, but hello. Sorry.
Uh,
No, go ahead. Sorry. I was just saying hi.
yeah. Sorry, I think this is.
Yeah, I know. I think,
I really, really like this comment because it's.
oh, sorry. I thought you broke up.
Oh,
No, Teresa, I like totally agree with you. I
sorry,
think, it's, oh, sorry.
yeah, my Wi-Fi cut out.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We know that there are going to be some technical issues. It's okay.
I
We're
was just
just
saying my
taking it one
Wi-Fi
step
cut
at a
out.
time. No, it's fine. Don't worry. Oh. Yeah, Teresa, I completely agree with you. I'm reading like a lot of queer books lately, and in all of them, you can see this like difference between the sapphic gaze and the male gaze, and just kind of this like consideration of the kindness that like queer women interact with each other with that isn't always there in this like exploitative, like patriarchal society. But yeah, totally agree. Love it. But I actually, sorry, before we move away from the conversation about side characters, can we talk about my favorite side character, Oliver? I loved Oliver so much, and I just want to talk a bit about how like he was the straight best friend, and like he was, you know, the role that like queer women in media are so often like pushed aside into is sort of this role of like the funny or like boisterous best friend. And then I was really glad that Saoirse and Ruby had Oliver to sort of fill that role, and I liked like the subversive nature of that choice. And also, I just liked him as a character because I thought he was fun and funny. Oh my gosh, Teresa. Can you put Teresa's most recent comment up? Because I think that is.
I can. This is
Yes,
the solidarity we need.
good.
I 100% agree. He is.
We love lesbian allies. Yeah, what did you think about Oliver, Chris?
I
Thoughts?
really liked Oliver quite a bit. I think he added a really interesting, like, okay, so obviously I did not expect a straight guy to be such a big character in a lesbian rom-com, but
Right.
I think he was a very interesting, not so much a foil, but like a compliment to Saoirse. Like, I think their personality just complemented each other in a really interesting way that made the book more interesting.
Right.
And I also he's hilarious, to be frank. Like, I don't know, the way he was written, it's incredibly funny.
Yeah, no, I loved him a lot. I thought he was great.
iPad out again.
Underappreciated
Sorry.
character. Okay, great. What's next? Do you want to talk about your next question?
I will be back in just a second. I
Okay.
forgot my notebook up in my room.
Okay, that's totally fine. Uh, okay, in the meantime, Teresa, do you have any questions? I know that you're um, in our audience. Totally okay if you don't, no pressure. Oh, I have a question just for anyone who's listening to think about. I thought like the format of having like the list of everything they wanted to do was super interesting. Did you think that that was effective, or did you think that was like, I don't know, just like a gimmick? What did you think? I felt that was like a fun like formatting question. Oh, sorry, Chris, welcome back. I was just
Welcome back.
filling the moment. Okay, what's your next question?
Yeah. Um, we can. I think my next question was actually about the movie.
Okay.
So if you like, a lot of movies are mentioned during this. A lot of movies are mentioned during this book, and there is like the list format that has the movies. And have you seen any of the movies? Do you think they added anything to the story?
Oh, okay. So I do have a lot of thoughts about this. I just quickly want to highlight Teresa's comment in the chat. Teresa said, "Oh yes, I love the list. I low-key started planning a readathon around it as well. So that's super cool. I would
We
definitely
need
participate."
Yes, we need to hear all about the readathon, Teresa.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, but so I've seen almost all of the movies that were mentioned in the book as like the framework for this kind of like rom-com summer that they were going for. And I thought it definitely added to it because, of course, I mean, except for, I can't remember, Love Simon is mentioned, right? Is Love Simon mentioned?
It's mentioned on the the carnival date.
Right, very briefly, right? But I mean, other
Mhm.
than that, all the other rom-coms that are mentioned are like uh between like straight couples. So I
Yes.
thought it was like another kind of way for Kiara Smith to like be subversive about what this book is, because it's kind of like that is the way that it outright says that, hello, this is the book for like queer girls that so many of these movies have been for straight couples for years and years and years, right? So I thought that was like a really important aspect
Mhm.
of their story and kind of highlighting this cute romance. Chris?
So while I do think it's a good subversion, I do think it's very interesting, and I do love the idea of like reclaiming the
Right.
straight cishet narrative. But I haven't seen any of the movies. I've seen Love, Simon.
You're like Saoirse in the beginning. Only has only
Yeah.
seen horror movies and no rom-coms.
Oh no, I don't watch horror movies either. I don't watch
Okay.
movies.
Okay, that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
think it was written in a way that like, since Saoirse hadn't seen a lot of those movies, um yes, 100% Teresa, I completely agree. Yes,
like
exactly.
you
You didn't
don't
feel out for not
need to
having
have
seen
seen.
them. Yeah. No, I don't think you needed to have seen them because Kiara Smith like
Yeah.
describes them so well, and you know exactly like what you're supposed to be taking out of it because Saoirse is also discovering those movies for the first time. So, I think it's kind of like it's a way for Kiara Smith to like help any readers who haven't seen the movies still understand the references. Do you have anything else to add?
Just a note, it's Kira.
Oh, it
Like,
is? Okay, Kiara Smith?
yeah,
Okay, cool. Sorry. Thank you so much for correcting me.
it's no problem. Irish names are not the easiest for people who aren't Irish to pronounce all the time. So just
Right.
like to let people know when I can.
Yeah,
Also,
no, I
she followed
appreciate
me
it.
on
Thank you.
Twitter last night, and I was like, "What?"
Did you scream? I would have screamed. That
I
is very
did.
funny.
I refused to
Wow.
scream on my Twitter about it because she follows me now.
I
But
know, right? You can't even be like OMG. 'Cause
um,
imagine she like liked it or something. That'd be hilarious. Okay, but yeah, sorry, that's awesome.
I would die. That would be so awkward.
I know. Okay, cool.
Okay.
What's your next question?
Okay. Okay. So thoughts on the big gesture of the book?
Um, Tell me more. What do you mean? Like kind of
So like the scene after after the breakup
right,
where Oliver's on the skateboard and
right,
videotaping it, and Sheersa has like I think it was music of some kind,
right.
that huge scene, and she has like the note cards.
I mean, I thought that was hilarious, and I thought it was another great way to like solidify Oliver as like the straight best friend, just there for like the Sapphic girls shenanigans. But yeah, no, I thought that was like a fun, realistic way of like recreating kind of these like perfect rom-com moments because it was like in real life, doing any of these things would be awkward, and you would be like panting and the camera angles would be not great and everything would be kind of a mess. So I thought that was really fun. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I liked how it was just like a mashup of all the moments mentioned in the book. Like they mentioned these big gestures from other rom-coms, and then they just recreated so many of them in like one scene. And I just think that was
Right,
a really fun homage to the romantic comedy genre.
right. Chaotic lesbian energy. We will try to do all the rom-com moments in one day. Not just like one small thing. All. Okay, cool. What's your next question, Chris?
Okay. So next I wanted to talk a bit about Shearsher's mom and
Yeah,
Shearsher's relationship with her parents in general.
right. I
So, like,
sobbed.
obviously, Shearsher does not have the best. Oh God, I cried too.
Yeah,
I don't know. Uh, but obviously, she doesn't have the best relationship with her dad, and her relationship with her mom is rough, obviously. And just generally, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you feel? And do you think it was a well executed part of the story?
I thought it was really well done. I don't know anyone who has had like early onset dementia specifically, but I had a friend who got who actually like passed away of like a degenerative brain disease, and it was also this kind of thing of like watching them like forget who you are and like lose like lose kind of control of their bodies also physically. And I thought that part of the book, at least when compared to that experience of mine, I thought that was really well done. And I thought it was like really sensitive, but also like realistic and didn't like sugarcoat how hard and how painful it can be to like watch someone you love go through that. And also how hard it can be personally. Because I think there's sort of this idea that, you know, you can't be selfish in any way if you're going through something like that. Like you have to always be thinking about the other person. But for the way that like Saoirse talked about how difficult it was for her to like have her mom forget who she is, I thought that was really important because it kind of, it will show any readers who are going through like any kind of similar situation that like they also are allowed to have feelings about going through something like this, and that it is like devastating personally as well as it is devastating watching someone you love go through that. So I thought that was really well done. I also, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I agree. I also think it was really well done. Going in, I was a bit worried about how it was going to be handled because I am just always a bit wary when it comes to stuff like that in books. And so my grandmother had dementia, but she passed before we got to the stage where she was like actually forgetting us or anything.
Right.
So I don't have any experience with that personally, but I do I am pre-med, so I do
Right.
have like some knowledge of this stuff, and I was just very, very worried that it would be handled insensitively, and I think this book handled it incredibly, incredibly well.
Right, 100%. And it also like it wasn't romanticized in any way. Like I feel like illness is so often like romanticized in books. Like this was just realistic and what it's like. And yeah. But also then
Yeah,
Saoirse's dad. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, it didn't like. I could very easily imagine a version of this story where Saoirse and decided she wanted one big love before
Right.
everything, and I'm glad this didn't go that way.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was more like interesting and complex for her as a character. And also,
Mhm.
there always has to be the big misunderstanding, fight, breakup in a falling in love movie.
Mhm.
Um, or book, sorry. But yeah, no. And then I also about like Saoirse's dad, I thought that was also a really important relationship. I like that, Saoirse's dad was like 100% like totally fine about her like being a lesbian. Because I think so often we have to watch like these coming out we have to read about these coming out narratives again and again, which is so important. And I love reading books about coming out because
Mhm.
I think they can like really help the reader personally, and also they can be just as romantic and sweeping as anything else. But it is nice to read books where like the characters already know who they are and the people around them already know who they are, so there isn't kind of this like adjustment period where everyone is like awkward, or oh, are people going to be like rude, or you don't have to like read that kind of like trauma again and again.
Mhm.
So it was nice to just sort of have that be like an established part of their relationship, even if other aspects of their relationship was really rocky.
Sometimes you just like it when sometimes you just want lesbians to be happy.
Right,
And while this book isn't entirely valid, in the very least, what made the characters upset was not tied to the fact that they are lesbians, and I just appreciate that quite a bit.
right. Actually, sorry, going like a little bit backwards in our conversation, can you highlight the comment from Teresa that starts, yeah, exactly, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I have a lot of very strong feelings about this. The fact that people call Saoirse selfish for having feelings about an issue that like deeply affects her personally, that makes me a little bit upset because I think it's kind of just like a, it's one of these things that maybe if Saoirse was like a more like palatable or like socially acceptable like heterosexual character, this might be seen as like her being sensitive or in touch with her feelings. But because she's kind of like abrasive and not always likable and like a queer woman, she's called selfish for it. So I think there is like a potential double standard here. And I also think that I strongly disagree with anyone that calls her selfish because having feelings isn't selfish, it's human. And I think that's great. What do you think?
I think that even if she was being selfish, who cares? Like,
Right,
she's the one dealing
exactly.
with this. She's the one that has to go through this. I mean, I know she's a fictional character, but like, still, this is like someone in real life is actually struggling with this right now. And how are you ever going to call their emotional response to that selfish?
Right. And also just like, if this kind of, people always say that they want like complex main characters that have like good and bad traits. But first of all, I don't think this is even a bad trait. I just want to say that I don't
No.
think she's being selfish at all. But even if she were, sometimes she's like selfish in other ways, like when she sort of like decides things for Ruby instead of just talking to her about them. But I think that again, that adds to the complexity of character. Who wants to read a book about characters that are just perfect all of the time?
Mm-hmm.
And especially, I think we do have to consider the fact that like queer characters aren't given as much allowance to have complex emotions. So I think it's so important that Saoirse does show that and is like explicitly struggling with a lot of these things that are considered more negative personality traits. But like she's a person who's, yes, exactly like Teresa says,
Mm-hmm.
Saoirse is a teenager going through shit. And she
Mm-hmm.
should be allowed to process that. Or else, what are we telling people they can and can't express? Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird to me. Like, why wouldn't you want a character who is complex?
Yeah, no. This conversation was happening like actually around a year ago on book Twitter,
Oh,
but
yeah?
there's this idea that queer characters, especially queer women, have to be pristine and perfect to get sympathy from the audience. And I just absolutely hate that that is still a thing that happens. Like,
Right.
we are not allowed stories that show us as actual humans. And I appreciate this book for doing that, even if it does open it up to some criticism.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. There's this idea that like queer women have to be like perfect moral compasses to be valid, when in fact, like queerness and being a lesbian is not a monolith, which is something that like we've talked about in our group, is about like all our different experiences of like being lesbians and what that means. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Do I hear a cat? Can we see the cat?
He's not actually near me right now.
Okay.
I think he's in one of the rooms, so I'm
Okay.
gonna go free him.
Okay. He's just loud. I love that. Oh, Teresa. Yes. Yeah. 100%. So I don't know how to like highlight a comment, so I'm just gonna read it. Teresa said, I loved what you said about people wanting complex female characters and then being mad when female characters are complex and have negative traits. Yeah, I think it's like people want, sometimes when people say they want complex female characters, they mean that they want like tidy complexity that they can still like compartmentalize into like good and evil. When in actual fact, real complex women have a lot of complex feelings and experiences and aren't going to fit neatly into those boxes. Hey, did you find him?
I'm back. Yes, he was in the basement for some reason,
Okay.
but he's free and he's run out now.
No, I love it. I think it's like it's peak lesbian energy to have like a cat interrupt our live show. Love it. Okay, great. Do you want
Yeah,
to do the
you
next
know,
question?
that,
Oh, sorry. You
yeah.
stop.
Oh, I didn't mean to show that one. But this would, yes, next question. This is probably going to be like wrapping up the live because this is like one of my last questions. But
Right.
what were your thoughts on the ending? And do you think the ending affects whether or not it can be considered a romance?
Okay, so Teresa, I didn't ignore your question earlier when you said this, but I was like, I know this is one of Chris's last questions, so I'm just gonna like put that away. But I do have a lot of feelings about the ending. At first, when I read it, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit like, we've just gone through all of this with the characters, they don't even end up together. That was my initial reaction, but after like some deep breaths, um, I do think that it can't be classified as a traditional romance anymore because, a romance requires a happily ever after or a happily for now. And this book has neither of those things for Saoirse and Ruby. There's kind of just this idea that they have now gone their separate ways and will still like keep each other up to date about what's happening in their lives. But then there's that moment where Saoirse like is kind of talking to that other person at college, and I was like, no, that's not Ruby. But I actually, so my initial reaction was horror, but then my long-term reaction is I think it is actually important to show relationships that don't last forever. And I think it would have been disingenuous to like the central goal of the book, which is to show that even if things don't last forever, they are still incredibly meaningful and can still change your life, and that person will still be really important to you. So I think that, and I think that's honestly something that a lot of like teens who are in that like transitional phase between high school and college need to read, because it's kind of like, even if you drift apart from people you knew in high school, even if like your long-term high school relationship ends or something, it doesn't mean that those things didn't matter. Oh, hello. Yes, 100% agree. I love what you said about it ending peacefully. It is kind of just this piece, like what they had will always be like perfectly preserved as like a wonderful like experience for them. But they're still like realistically pulled apart by like not being in the same country, not wanting to try long distance. And those are also like natural factors of a relationship. Chris?
I really enjoyed the ending. I think it was handled really well because I do think it would have felt not true to the story if they did just have a happily ever after. And while I do think this means the book isn't like, I since there isn't a happily ever after, I don't like calling it a rom-com because one of the genre staples of a rom-com and romances in general is that happily ever after. So
Yeah,
I tend to picture this as a romantic contemporary now, but
right.
I do enjoy that they didn't end up together. It felt very real. It felt realistic, and it there's no suspension of disbelief in this story. Like, I think everything in this book could have happened in real life, and the ending really just cements that.
Right. 100% agree. Um, can you highlight this comment from Teresa? That's yeah, there we go. Yeah, 100%. I also, like you said, teenagers not finding the loves of their lives. That's just common. Like the amount of people that actually end up with their like high school sweethearts. How many people is that really? But yeah, Chris, I really enjoy what you said about how this everything that happened in the book could have happened in real life, because I think that like realism makes like the positive aspects of their story also more impactful, because it's
Mhm.
like you can really have this wonderful sweeping romance where you deal with like these complex issues, but you still have like this beautiful relationship with someone that means a lot to you in your life. And I think that can be like really uplifting for a lot of readers, because there's kind of this idea that, especially in high school, like you have to like decide everything that you ever want to do or are ever going to be right now, because you can never change it, when everyone knows that like that's not true. You can continue to grow and change and like become a different person throughout life, and things can be temporary, and that's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, it's very, very uplifting in its realism because you don't have to hold out for a big, grand love. You can just cherish and appreciate the small one that you have. We can talk
Right,
about Teresa's last comment in a minute, but I do want to talk about her most recent one because
right.
it's just, yeah, I agree.
100%. And I think that also, it makes the characters more real. Like I feel like I should be able to like phone Saoirse and
Mhm.
Ruby and just be like, "Hi, you want to go hang out?"
I keep
Because they
expecting
feel
to
so
find them
real.
on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, really. That's so funny. But yeah, no, I feel like and I think that also, in normalizing this kind of like queer relationships as being just like like normal heterosexual relationships that have been portrayed in media forever. I think that's so important too because it's part of this kind of like normalizing in media, which I think is so crucial to
Mhm.
like first of all queer teens like accepting themselves, and then also just kind of um, countering this kind of like fetishization or like weird over moralization of queer women. Yeah.
I agree,
Teresa, yes.
Teresa, yeah, I agree.
I mean, maybe for the readathon,
Yeah, that would be so cool.
right?
Okay, and then she said, I think I'd still classify it as a rom-com, just a much more realistic one. And
Right.
I don't know, I think it might be classified as a rom-com in the future because genre conventions are always shifting and always changing. But in the present, I really don't know where it falls.
Right. Like, yeah, Chris, I think you're right in saying that like it's not like a straight up romance because of the ending, but I think it could maybe still be like a rom-com, like Teresa's saying, because it's like, isn't like Love Actually is considered a rom-com and not everyone gets a happily ever after in that either. So I think it is kind of like walking this fine line in the
Mm-hmm.
genre of nothing like bad happens to the characters. They are happy. They're just not happy together. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think yeah, it's definitely complicated.
Genre is
Um,
weird.
yeah, yeah. Oh, was that
Okay.
your last question,
That
Chris?
was
Was it
my last question. So, if anyone in
okay?
the chat has anything else so unless the chat has anything else they want to talk about,
Okay,
this is going to be our goodbye. So, like a few minutes for questions if anyone has any.
cool. I actually have a question. While anyone might be typing, to give you a moment. Can we talk about this cover for a second? Just because I think like if I had this on my bookshelf as like a young like a younger I'm only 21 but I mean like as like a teenager still in high school, this would have been like revolutionary for me. And being able to see this kind of like adorable, clearly like romantic book between featuring two girls, that would have like changed my life in high school.
Mm-hmm. I think the cover is very, very important because even with a lot of like books that are sapphic and YA, we still don't get covers like that. Like if I'm thinking of like stuff like We Are Okay by Nina LaCour
Right.
and Ash
Or
by
like old
Melinda
staples.
Lowe.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, no, Ash
But
is on my mind
oh yeah, because
because
it's our like next
it's
book.
September
Yeah.
pick. Yeah.
Right. But
And like, oh, go ahead.
no, please, you go.
I'm gonna say like even stuff like that are coming out now, like Cinderella is Dead and
So gorgeous. That
so
cover's gorgeous
gorgeous. The
though.
cover is
Yeah.
gorgeous, but like it doesn't like it's not overtly sapphic, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like I think, thinking about the covers, we are getting a lot more. I can't remember the name of it, but that book about the afterlove, the two
Mm-hmm.
characters who are like in the afterlife and they're like kissing on the front cover. That
Mm-hmm.
also like seeing that was like, oh my heart. But yes, I think we are definitely getting more of it. But we're still at that point where like this is still like revolutionary and
Yeah.
freaking awesome. Okay, can we highlight this comment?
Uh oh, not
Oh,
that one. This
oh,
one?
from there. Yeah, there
Yeah.
we go. Yeah, I also really want to see more from Kira Smith. Just because I loved her writing style. I just thought it was like so accessible and made the characters jump off the page. But I do also see your point about, wanting to see like a happily ever after from her. I think, I think it depends, because on one hand, I would love to read like a book that has like a more overtly happy ending. But on the other hand, I was reading something online. I wish I could cite this, but someone was saying about how we shouldn't be commenting on representation from like a place of scarcity. We should be commenting on it from like a place of, hopefully there'll be so much sapphic representation one day that we'll have like choices. Like we'll have tons of, there are so many more sapphic books, and there are so many amazing sapphic books. But I always want more. And I think hopefully one day we'll be at that point where like we'll have such a sweeping array of options that we won't sort of like feel this need to get like specific things from specific authors. So it's on one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I don't know. I'm kind of here for anything that Kira Smith writes. Sorry, did that make sense?
It makes sense. Like,
okay.
I want a happy ending. Like, I want happily ever afters for sapphic characters, but I also recognize that that's not a lot of people's stories. I understand that that's not what everyone wants to tell, and I just want to get to a place in literature where authors don't have to worry about if not having a happily ever after makes their book like if not having a happily ever after reinforces some type of stereotype.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. I think kind of like this, we're still at this idea where sometimes certain types of representation are treated like the representation instead of one of many. Yeah, 100%. Oh, can we highlight this comment from Teresa?
This one or the Felix Ever After one?
Oh, either. We could talk about both. But yeah, I thought, Felix Ever After, that cover is also gorgeous and so like important and revolutionary for YA covers. I want to read that so bad too.
It's such a good book. I really like Felix Ever After. I cannot wait for the TV show. And
sorry.
Did you not know there was a TV show coming?
I feel like I read something about it, but you just reminded me of it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's gonna be so awesome for like queer teens. I love that.
Very excited. The cover is very nice, but I think this is one you actually wanted highlighted.
Right. Yeah. Well, I honestly both were great. Teresa is like, I love the comments. But yeah, I haven't actually seen anything about Kira's new book. So,
neither have I. So Teresa, share the details.
Teresa. Yeah. I guess we could also probably give it a Google, but while we're here. But yeah, I mean, I'm here for whatever it is. And I 100% trust your judgment. Oh, Teresa says, it's so good, I read it in a day. I think that's what Felix Ever After, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want Kira Smith commenting on my tweets to tease me about upcoming sapphic books.
Okay, I hope that's my life now.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. I know, I'm like, please follow me. Jokes, I'm fine. But that's awesome. I love that. Okay, yes, please send them to me. Maybe we can like link to them at the end of this live show or something if like we can't get them now, and then people can read them later on and sort of get excited.
Yeah, I can always add them to the description down below.
Right, yes. Yeah. Woo.
Okay, so I think that's all we have to talk about.
Right. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me on your channel. I had such a great time.
Thank you so much for coming. It's been a lot of fun.
I was so excited to be here, and I just want to say everyone should read this so that I know this was full of spoilers, so if you haven't read this book yet, you now know everything. But still read this because it's awesome.
Read the book. Spoilers aren't gonna hurt it.
Yeah, no.
Pick it up right now.
What matters. Yeah, the journey, not the destination.
Okay, so I'm just gonna end it. Bye, everyone.
Bye, and bye, Teresa. Thanks for contributing so much.